everybody, it's Safi and Marco, dish out on the movies. Well, today we are doing a review of the new season and show called Dark Winds. It's based on the famous writers' books about the Navajo Nation, the Hopis, and the whole Southwest area, Gallup, New Mexico, all that area around there, by Tony Hillerman. And he passed away a few years ago. His daughter Anne is still writing the books, and it's about this Sheriff Leaphorn, who's in charge of the Indian reservation, the law. And this episode is the first episode. It was on last night, which we had no idea. We got mistaken. We thought it was on tonight, but that's beside the point. We both have watched it. The episode was called Monster Slayer, which I'm kind of confused as to why it was called that. Maybe Marco has better ideas. And both Marco and I come from different places in reviewing this show. I have read every single one of Tony Hillerman's books, and not just once, more than once. I love them. I really enjoyed them. I've read all of his daughter's books, too, because she continues on with the series. And last night, they showed three basic characters. Jim Chi, he's a new recruit coming to work for the office, the Joe Leaphorn's office. Joe Leaphorn is the main character. He's in charge of the, like I already said, the sheriff's office and the policing of the area. And then there's Officer Bernie Manuelito, and she's the other co-officer. And Anne Hillerman, since Tony focused more...
Don't they call those deputies?
Yeah, I guess so. Sheriff's deputies. Tony Hillerman focused mainly on Joe Leaphorn and Jim Chi as characters, and he did do some character development for Bernie Manuelito, but she has basically taken over that role and developed more of a character for her, which is probably just as well, because she's a woman and Bernie's a woman, and it is good to have a woman's perspective.
Well, really,
a little bit more.
Really, the logical perspective is, even regardless of, like, it has to be like a woman's main character now in the books. It's realistic because he's not gonna be like running around when he's like 90 years old doing detective stuff in the same way that, the Ghostbusters, it should have been them. But with the new Ghostbusters, they just had them in the supporting roles because they're old.
Right, and it's so the same way with the books, too.
It makes more sense than, if he were young and they just said, no, she's the sheriff now. Well, they do with everything else nowadays.
Well, she's just...
That's not the show. That's the books. We're just...
Right, and we've just seen one episode.
Yeah.
And, it's really hard for me because we did see an interview. It was, I guess, a written interview from Anne Hillerman. She was lucky enough to be able to see 3 episodes of the new series. And I think she has a better perspective just because to see this one, there were things that happened. Even the title of the episode, I don't understand. She says it's a combination of 3 books that he wrote, and I've read, like I said, I've read all the books. And so this being entirely different, new, crafted story. And she really liked them. She thought they did a really good job. But of course, she's seen 3, and I'm wondering if I would better understand what the things that I heard last night if I had seen 3 as well. So I don't know. And let's hear what Marco has to say because, like I said, he's never read any of the books. So he just knows that I really love the books. I have her books. I have a stack of her books. She even has one. I even have one signed by her. And so let's hear what he has to say, because he comes from a completely, very objective, different place.
Well, actually, in 5th grade, I was supposed to do a book report project for my reading class, and and I picked one of his books because I thought it looked cool on the cover because it had like a skull and it had like this cool artwork.
They all are good covers.
Yeah, and the skull one was just the one I thought, that's the one I want to do right now. And it was like the most boring, like I couldn't read it at all, and I just couldn't get into it at all. Like it made me want to stab myself like a million times with an Indian spear. Like that's how boring it was. And so Safi ended up doing the project for me because it was so boring. I don't think we were allowed to pick a different book. That's why I didn't just do a different book. I think she forced us to stick with what we originally chose. So
really ridiculous.
That's why Safi did it for me. And but honestly, the TV show, so I wasn't expecting much. And the trailer was even worse for me because the trailer was like just a bunch of random nothingness. And it really didn't give me anything to latch on to except for I like the main actor, and I like mysteries, and I like the setting, and I think it's a unique storytelling thing to tell stories about Native Americans. That's a unique story because they don't really do that as much with regular movies. And so I was excited still to watch the show to see if it was really good or really bad. And surprisingly, it wasn't really good or really bad. It was just like in the middle.
Right.
It was like a B or a B plus. It was enjoyable. The whole episode was enjoyable, and all the acting was good, and the sets and locations look really good, and there's some mysteries that are going to be interesting to solve. But the biggest problem is the fact that this is a poor introduction to the series. It feels to me like they're trying to be mainstream, and they're trying to appeal to the mainstream audience. And at the same time, they're trying to appeal to the hardcore fans of the book. And so they end up pleasing neither. Because it feels like I don't really know the characters very much. I'm really confused about the mysteries because there's so much stuff going on that it's hard to even like be excited about next week because like I don't know like what to like focus on because there's just so much going on, and it's a modern episode of TV because they're not revealing very much, and it seems like they're just kind of baiting you along. The mainstream audience, they're baiting mainstream people who like to see cool things and they like to see spectacle, and they're not really telling like a story. Because you compare that with like Breaking Bad, and in the Breaking Bad's first episode, all the characters are fully fleshed out. You know exactly what the story is, and you know where it's going to go from there, and you're excited for it. With this, I don't know at all. Like, I know that it's like a mystery thing that's going on, and that the characters are pretty good because they're good actors, but I don't really know. It's in the middle for me.
Well, which is so funny because I do know the characters very well, and it's in the middle for me too because I just don't know what to think.
See?
I found the thing at the end, the revelation about Jim Chi.
That was the worst part for me.
I was shocked because I don't think that ever happened in the books. And I'm going to go back and look because that'd be way back in the beginning. But I just don't believe it. I thought he was already there, and I'm going to have to go back and figure out which book is the first one that he wrote. He wrote one book, and if you see it, don't read it. Just ignore it. It has nothing to do with
What's
this.
it called? The Flies on the Wall?
The Fly on the Wall. You know, like, he used to be before he wrote these books, he was a journalist, and then he's a professor at a university. I don't know if it's the University of Arizona or what, but the Fly on the Wall, I think, was just an experiment of writing a book. And they always tell writers to write about what you know, and he knew about this area and knew about the people who lived there, and he wanted to write about them, and he was so on target. But we have been to that area a number of times, and so, and I donate to this foundation every year at Christmas time, because I've been there so desolate, and people live so far apart in the middle of nowhere. They have no water, they have no electricity. And anyway, that's all beside the point. But I felt just like Marco, which is kind of weird because we come from two totally different places. Because first of all, the title of the episode.
Oh, that's another thing. Monster Slayer.
I don't know what they're talking. I don't know if they're talking about Jolie porn, which is kind of odd because that is not what he is.
He's a monster slayer.
He's just doing his job, and you see him.
Is he going to go up against the giants at the top of a beanstalk or something?
Yeah,
is he going to jack the giant killer?
Truthfully, I don't like the title. He pays attention to detail. And one thing I didn't see, but you have to be on the lookout for this, is one thing he did. He was very famous for it. The people from other sheriff's offices around the country, even the FBI, they knew that he had this, and he would have a map. He had a map of the reservation, and anytime there was some crimes committed, because they have everything. They have the immigration thing. They have people doing illegal, like the artifacts. They showed that actually in the episode. There was a guy, and he was digging a hole, and what's this about? And that's Jolie porn, because if you saw any of the previews at all, he's standing there and telling this guy to dig this hole, and he found these artifacts, and he was going to take them off the reservations and sell them. Well, it's totally illegal, and so he's making barium. But there's all kinds of different stories woven into these books about the illegal, artifacts, all kinds of really good stuff. And there's another thing is witchcraft, which they did talk about that.
And in the episode, there's this weird moment where the mother of this pregnant girl, she what does she do? She
I don't know.
She's holding out her hand, and she's and there's this little puff of black gas or something, and it repels the Emanuelita, or
Bernie Manuelita, but they call her Manuelita,
and she's and it's what was that? It's just some sort of a little a witch thing. Witches just can walk around going, and this little puff of gas makes people go, or maybe it was real gas. I just don't understand what it would be, because she looks her in the eyes, and it's this.
She has a devil smile.
Horror moment, and I was oh, what's that about? It's some sort of a devil gas.
Well, my theory about that thing is that they had a big robbery at the very beginning of the episode, which in the book you do have terrible, horrific crimes, but they're not so. This is TV, so they show the crime and they show people getting killed. It's not like that in a book. It's because it's a book. It's words, and on TV it's visual. And I think these robbers either they fled to this part of the reservation, and these people they had a crash, and because they showed the water, if you looked in the water at the bottom of the water, you see the remains. And Joe Leaphorn, he knows something's happened there. He goes there, and
that was a weird moment too when he sniffs the ground. He sniffs some dirt.
I think he smells oil.
And then all of a sudden they like show this. I'm just talking about how it was filmed.
Yeah,
they show this really weird like early 2000s sequence where the camera goes underwater, and we see like this computer generated underwater, and then a computer generated crashed helicopter.
Yeah, a body.
And it was a weird moment.
I saw a body.
That was one of the weird moments, and really another issue that isn't really a huge problem. It's just it's typical of like modern TV. Is that I didn't really like the way the episode looked, because I felt like there wasn't any distinction between the 1970s and then today. Like I couldn't see any visual distinction, except for, I guess, they added a little gray in Joe's hair. And so everything, the whole episode looks kind of like khaki-ish. Like everything's a khaki color.
They wear that.
And I mean like everything. Like the walls, the ceiling, the floor, the dead people, the alive people. Everything just looks like one color. And it doesn't really look colorful because it's like a modern show, and so everything looks pretty like stale. And so I really wish that it looked more colorful, because I think in real life it is more colorful than what they're showing on the show.
Area. The sunsets and the sunrises are amazing.
They love sucking the color out of things nowadays.
That's just terrible to do it to that area. But of course, and what's funny is, at the very beginning, it's pouring down rain. Now, I know they have rain. But the thing is, what Marco was saying doesn't jive with the rain. Because if it was a time when it was raining a lot, things would be a lot more green somewhere. And when it gets to dry time, and it's hot, excessively hot, and right now they've been fighting fires. I don't know if they're still fighting them in New Mexico. And
Jeff Goldblum is setting all the fires, I guess, in Jurassic World.
But whatever, they've had terrible, because of the dryness, and when you looked out there, everything looked very dry. So that's what I got. That was another thing.
That's what I mean.
And in the books, they do a huge focus. It's very part of the story. And that is, this place is huge. And it's expansive. And there's just miles and miles of this scrub. And in the evening, you see these coyotes, and they're running around and scavenging. And, you have these beautiful cliffs and whatever. Anyway, I think one of the robbers is taken over this household with the pregnant girl.
Okay, that's a robbery, you think?
That's what I think. Yeah. I could be wrong, but remember, Jim Chi and Manuelito, she went to check on the girl because this person at the clinic, which they do in the books, they do talk to the people at the clinic a lot, because there's weird stuff that goes on sometimes.
Really?
Yes. And
why?
I think they went to check on this girl because of what the nurse said from the clinic. She's concerned. And while Jim Shi was out in the back, there was somebody in there, and they had a shotgun, and they were about ready to blow him away through the slats in the wood. And so I think and they were just acting odd, and they couldn't say anything, and I don't know about that witchcraft thing the woman did. I saw that was so fast too.
She had too many bean burritos from Taco Bell.
No.
Well, I
They're
just,
lucky they had
I
enough
didn't
coffee
understand.
and rice and.
I didn't understand what happened there.
So anyway, I guess I give the episode a. I just don't know what to do. I guess a C plus or B minus. Really, my opinion's still out.
So I'm giving it a higher grade than you. I'm giving it a B.
Well, there was
I
just this
give it a
thing with
B.
Jim Chi. They talk about the end. He's really an FBI agent, and
I
he was
really
sent there.
didn't like that. I thought that was stupid.
That I don't think that happened in any of the books at all. And so that's why I'm gonna have to go back and look at the first book. I think he was there all along. He's learning how to be a medicine man. It's very important for them especially when somebody dies, for them to be cleansed. They think evil spirits hang around when somebody dies, and they have to. I was telling Marco, these Navajo code doctors in World War II that helped the United States, win World War II. Because they cracked the code. Nobody could understand what they were saying. Nobody in Germany knew Navajo. And they would be out in the battlefield, and they'd be around, what do you see on battlefield? Dead people. So they're around dead people all the time. So they come home, they have to have these, they call them sings. And it's a special healing ceremony that is conducted by a person, a special person who knows how to do those ceremonies to cleanse their spirits and their body of this evil magic and spirits that they were around.
Well, Safi, speaking of evil, well, actually not evil, but let's just, you've kind of like avoided talking about the episode.
I just don't know what to say. It's very hard for me. Because there were, for one thing, another thing too, I've seen the guy who plays Joe Leaphorn. He was in Fargo. He played a bad Native American who was helping this gang, and he was just a cold-blooded killer. And then I've seen him in Longmire. If any of you have ever seen that series, Longmire.
What did he play in that? Did he play another villain, or did he play like a...
I think he was like a law enforcement.
Well, let's just lay out the episode because I'm sick of the games here. Let's just lay out the episode.
You go ahead. It's just really hard for me.
Well, it's hard. It's hard. I came down here and I thought it would have been funny if, like, maybe Safi hated it and it would have been funny, but actually it's even funnier that Safi doesn't know what to think because I was like, do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And she's like, I don't know! And it's funny. It's like, see, that's how you can tell that this is not a great episode of television.
Yeah.
Because if it was good, then you would be confident enough to say it's good.
Yeah, you would. It's true.
And regardless, like, for me. And so let's just, like, break down the episode. First off, there's like a bank robbery, truck bank robbery, and then they show this guy stealing artifacts, and Joe Leaphorn threatens him, and that was weird to me because I kind of got the implication from that was one of the bank robbers or something.
No.
And that, like, this is like some dark secret of Joe's that, like, he killed a bank robber. Like, I didn't get what was going on there. Like, they showed those two things in such fast, like, what was the point of showing those two things? It's like they're withholding important information from us, which doesn't make for a very interesting story. Just like with, how Better Call Saul did in season 6. And Safi, guess what the writer of Better Call Saul said? Guess what his reason was for not telling us? He said that the only time you give the audience information is when it's not going to work.
What?
Like, that is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Like, remember in Breaking Bad when they had the detailed plot for how they're gonna do the train robbery, and they, like, spent, like, an episode or multiple episodes planning it, And then they show it. Well, the Better Call Saul writer says you shouldn't tell the audience unless it goes wrong. And so that's what it felt like in this show, is like they're withholding information. And so it was even more surprising that Safi couldn't tell me anything that would actually like explain anything. And then there's like and then there's like these people who are visiting this healing woman, and then there's like a murder, and then there's like FBI there. They want to solve the murder, and they want to solve the bank robbery.
You have
Like
to explain
it's so convoluted.
A reservation is federal land, so if any kind of crime is committed like that, a murder, for example, the FBI has to be called in and investigate, which totally drives the local law enforcement crazy, and this was reflected in all of the books, but they had to call them in. And they don't like being there. They think it's like a hardship post because it is such a desolate area. You know, there's not a lot going on, and they find it boring, and they don't have the respect for the people who live there as much as they should. And they talk about this in all the books. And so that wasn't, and they came out there and they acted like they would like to have the murder solved in 2 seconds and leave and not come back.
Well, of course, they don't even solve any murders. Like, they
no,
suck.
There's no,
They're trash.
What part of the murder is when there was a helicopter that had the stolen money on it and the thieves, and it came flying over the reservation land, and this guy was out there with his sheep maybe, and he saw them, and that affected him in a negative way. He became sick, like he had some kind of evil sickness, and he went to see this woman, I guess, for her to, as a medicine woman, her to cleanse his spirit.
Is it because one of the bank robbers died, and so
maybe
the spirit is near him?
But they wouldn't have known that when it flew over. It didn't look like they were going to have a wreck, and so.
But they're in the water. They're in that water.
I know
hole.
that, but when you see the helicopter, it doesn't look like it's headed toward crashing into anything.
It was very weird.
I
mean, what was good about. What was good was the acting. All the acting was good. Like, there wasn't any bad acting. Well, I will say, I'm not really a fan of the main character. He doesn't really come across as someone who's, like, a good main character who you want to follow a show over. Like, you haven't even been really given any information about him except for he's distant from his people on the reservation, and he has a wife, and he sits on the porch and talks with her. Like, that's about it. There's nothing really else to his character, and so it's hard to like his character when there's not much to know. I would say so far the best character would probably be the deputy female, Emanuelita, because she's the only one who seems like a definitive character, to where, like, her character's a lot more confidently written, and that might be a product of 2022.
Yeah, because Anne Hillerman is alive and well.
Because why is it that in the first episode of this series, I like her more than I like anyone else?
Yeah, it's interesting.
What do you think? I mean, did you think that as well? Because you didn't like him. You thought he wouldn't cut his hair.
I just don't know what to say about that. I've seen.
You don't know what to say about anything
this show. He is a very good actor, and I don't know who they would have found who would be better or who's available to play Joe Leadporn. And that's the thing. I was saying to Marco, like, for Harry Potter, I've read all the Harry Potter books. And all those people that they hired to act the parts, they're perfect. They fit the parts perfectly.
Well, he looks sickly, Safi. He looks like he's sick or like he's been sick. Or
And he doesn't
like
have gray hair. They put, like
really?
Marco said, he put the gray, unless he's been.
Yeah.
He has beautiful long hair. If I didn't think, I couldn't believe that he'd cut his hair, because I don't think Joe Leaphorn had any long hair in the book. And I could see that he's tied his hair up and back, which is perfectly fine. But I mean, because I just didn't believe that he would cut his hair.
It would be interesting to see like a sketch of what the character looks like from the book's description. Because I don't know, I just didn't get any sort of confident character from him. And then Jim Chi was like a caricature of the typical, and you know, whenever you have like a Tyler Perry movie, for instance, there's always the black person who went to the city and got educated and rich, and he comes down to the you know, the urban area to talk with regular people, quote unquote, and you have like this difference of class, and it feels like this Jim Chi character is like that caricature where he's like a big city person, and he's also a dirty person because he works for the FBI secretly. And so I don't like these two main characters very much, except for the actors. But I do like the woman.
Well,
So
the thing about in Jim Chi in the book is like, I thought he was always there, and he's working to be a medicine man as well as being in law enforcement, like a dual. He wants to do a dual type of career.
this feels like he came back after like a long excursion of doing bad white people things.
I don't remember it being that way. That's why I say I'm going to have to look.
Yeah. Have to do a little research into the books you've already read.
He was impulsive, and he would, they would have something happen. He would jump right on over there and
so he's that
check
much,
it out.
He's that much of a dipshit in the books? Like, to where he works
different.
for the FBI and he's like a dirty guy?
He's different. He's different. He's just impulsive and young. Like, he has to learn some things first and calm down and get to know his job better. But this, he was pretty quiet, and then you find out this secret at the end about what he is actually supposed to be doing there. And what they want to do is, I guess, they have these robbers. They want to blame it on some radical Native American group, and then they would have. It's like I said, they want to solve the crime quickly so they can leave.
What crime? There's a million crimes. It's
Well,
like
the crime of
which one? Like
the robbery, I guess.
oh, okay, that one.
The
What about the
murder,
murder?
that's not. Yeah, that's true. That's completely, and that would be something they would have to be working on too.
They were making it seem like they don't want to solve the murder because it's a native people who were killed.
Right, and that's that kind of thing was in the book, where they have this thing with the FBI. Like I said, the FBI doesn't want to be there.
And I'm just
they
saying,
have to be there.
I'm just saying that it's convoluted. I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with the depictions or anything. I'm just saying it's convoluted.
So I don't know what to say. I gave it what I gave it, and I can't give it any better or any worse. I'm trying to. I know that it's very hard, because I know there's other fans. We've been reading these books for years and years and years.
Well, what's the next episode going to be called? Like,
I have no idea.
The Monster Slayer's Wife or something? Like,
no, they don't have much about their relationship during. What happens in the book? She gets cancer and passes away.
well, like, what does that
And
title
he's a
mean,
widow.
though? Like, what did that title mean? In fact, what does Dark Winds mean?
I don't know.
What
Well,
does
that's a
that
brand
title
new name.
mean?
They've come up with combining the elements of 3 different books.
Is that like
That's
the
a
dark winds of bad energy or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
Well, at least we figured that out. That's the only thing I could figure out from the whole show so far. So
So
I give it
anyway,
a B.
just be, we have other things coming up this week. We have MasterChef Junior
Twice.
semifinal.
Twice.
And we have some kind of blooper episode they're doing,
really
which is
weird.
really weird. And
Really
they
queer.
don't do that usually. And,
You can tell he must feel bad about keeping Mafia Don the whole season, so
and ruining the whole
he
season.
wants to reflect on it and show, like, oh, is there some good moments to show?
And I just want to explain that they're adults, and if he was not the right person to be on there because he didn't know what to do, he kept making mistakes, it was their responsibility to get him off the show.
But they kept him for the whole season.
Yeah, so I don't want to I'm not going to blame the boy, because
No.
that's not his fault. He probably knew when he made all these mistakes, like, I don't even know how I'm going to be able to stay here. But they kept him on and kept giving him chances. So they screwed themselves, okay? And everybody else, too, I hate to say. I know it's not very nice, but it really, you can just tell the difference. I'm sorry, you could tell the difference between the way the episodes were with and without him. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that now because we're talking about something else. We're going to be, and also the last episode of The Offer will be coming up in a couple of days. So that will be the end of that series. And I hope everybody eventually, it doesn't seem like it's been offered to a very select group of people.
It's been offered to them.
Yeah, the offer's been offered.
Why don't you offer people to like the video
But if you've ever,
and
yes,
offer them
right.
to subscribe to the channel?
So anyway, that's what you have to look forward to. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up.
Bye-bye.
And
Bye-bye.
become our subscriber. We
Bye-bye.
love subscribers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.